Hello, everybody. Cynical idiom to express a deep doubt about a promise. Now, we know what an idiom is. It's a phrase with a figurative meaning that you cannot guess just by looking at the words. For example, break a leg, a piece of cake, under the weather. That's what you call an idiom. And this lesson here is, I'll see it when I believe it. Your mindset or your faith shapes what you experience. The example is Thomas, the honest doubter, sincere doubter. This lesson is in the Gospel of John, chapter 11, 14 through 16. 14, 5 through 8. Chapter 20, 24 through 29. 21, 1 and 2. It's all in the Gospel of John. Chapter 11, 14 through 16. Chapter 14, 5 through 8. Chapter 20, 24 through 29, chapter 21, 1 and 2. This is August 2nd, 2026 lesson. The unifying principle is just some highlights about this lesson. In the face of doubts, many people will seek out solid evidence or proof. Some things are seemingly unfathomable. But what source of evidence is persuasive enough to address our doubt? John indicated that after Thomas received evidence from Jesus, his doubts were relieved and his faith restored. Who knew, huh? The first subtopic, a willing disciple in hard places. A willing disciple. He's in a place. He don't know which way to go or think. So we see the death of Lazarus and his purposes. But why the death? Well, it's to help strengthen the disciples. This is in 14 and 15. Verse 14 records Jesus plainly telling his disciples, Lazarus is dead, preparing them for the miracle of his resurrection. Listen to this. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Now this invites us into a critical conversation about loss, about mourning, and the profound nature of faith that transcends our expectations. Every death seems insurmountable, but somehow you get over it. When Jesus made this bold declaration, and he aimed to shift the disciples' perspective from despair to hope. The weight of loss is immense. It always is. Anyone who has lost someone dear knows the pain intimately. It is essential for us as believers to recognize that death isn't the end. Death is for the living. This moment serves as a powerful reminder that while death is a reality we face in this life, it is not insurmountable through faith in Jesus Christ. You can get through it. We all have experienced death of someone that means a lot to us. Somehow, we're still here. You'll get through it. Verse 15 highlights Jesus' purposeful delay in visiting Lazarus, demonstrating divine timing and providing a profound lesson in faith for his disciples. Verse 15 says, And I am glad for your sake that I was not there, to the intent you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. His statement here can also serve to remind us about the importance of belief and faith in our lives. He mentions, to the intent you may believe, which implies that the unfolding events are not solely for the physical healing of Lazarus, but rather to strengthen the faith of his followers. Through witnessing this miracle, they would be equipped to spread the message of Jesus and carry their faith forward. This challenges each of us to think about how we react in moments of grief or confusion. Do we view these moments as setbacks, or do we see them as opportunities for belief and growth? Verse 16 highlights Thomas's bold loyalty as he urges the disciples to accompany Jesus to Judea, despite the danger, expressing a willingness to die with him. He did this to stir the disciples' courage and loyalty in verse 16. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. Now this verse relies not only on Thomas's character, but also the deeper meaning of true discipleship. Discipleship involves risk, and it requires us to stand firm in our faith, especially during challenging times. Thomas, though feared for the risk associated with returning to Judea, was ready to accept those risks for the sake of his mentor and his Lord. This is risk worth taking. His statement encourages us to ponder how we respond to fear in our lives and how willing we are to follow Jesus, even when the path gets tough, and it will. The declaration of Jesus, he was going to God. In verse 5, Thomas said unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? That's the contradiction and skepticism of Thomas. Here we find Thomas expressing confusion and uncertainty. He directly addresses Jesus, revealing his concern about not knowing where Jesus is headed. His question is significant because it speaks to the very human struggle to understand things we cannot see or measure. People often face periods of uncertainty in their lives, just as Thomas did that day. This question reflects a longing for clarity and guidance, a desire many of us share when we confront the unknown. The way to God is through Jesus Christ himself, it says in verse 6. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. The only way to God is through Jesus Christ. In this powerful verse, Jesus declares three significant truths about himself. He starts with, I am the way, indicated that he is the path we must follow to reach God. Life can often feel like a maze with many paths. We may wonder which direction to take, but Jesus clarifies that he is the single journey we must venture on. This assurance gives us comfort and direction. The second part of this verse states, and the truth. In a world where truths can sometimes be distorted and subjective, Jesus presents himself as the ultimate truth. He embodies honesty and reliability, something we can always count on. When we seek answers or clarity in our lives, we can look to Jesus, trusting that his words and actions will always convey pure truth. Lastly, Jesus adds, and the life. This phrase tells us that he offers not just physical existence, but also spiritual vitality. True life, as Jesus defines it, is a relationship with him. Through him we experience hope, joy, and everlasting assurance. He provides life both in this world and the world to come. The only way to God is now unmistakably revealed. To know Christ is to know God in verse 7. If you had known me, you should have known my Father also. And from henceforth you know him and have seen him. Jesus challenges his disciples to consider their understanding of him, and through that, their understanding of God. This moment highlights the importance of recognizing his role as the Son of God, affirming that he embodies the character and qualities of God. So when Jesus declares, you know him and have seen him, he invites us to acknowledge that through him, we can have a direct relationship with God the Father, but only through him. The essence of this relationship leads to an eternal connection with God, which transcends our earthly existence. The real life begins when this life ends. So we see the request of Philip. Show us the Father. He was asking for some dazzling sight, maybe. He says in verse 8, Philip said unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Philip's request shows a fundamental aspect of faith, striving to understand the nature of God and seeking reassurance in our belief. His statement is sufficient for us, indicates a desire for closure, confirming that seeing the Father would be enough to solidify their faith. We often find ourselves in similar situations when we ask God for signs or direct manifestations of his presence in our lives. This demonstrates the human need for reassurance and understanding in faith. So we see honest doubt meets gracious response. Thomas, frustrated, reactionary spirit. This is verse 24. He says, but Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came. The reason was guilt. In this instance, Thomas wasn't present with the other disciples when Jesus appeared after his resurrection. His absence becomes a central theme in understanding his character. It shows that being part of a community or group does not guarantee faith, and that every individual experiences their journey differently. We all different. Sometimes we aren't present when revelation happens, which can lead to doubt or confusion in our faith journey. Some might say, if I don't see it, it's not real. So we see Thomas's false picture of Jesus in verse 25. He says, the other disciples therefore said unto him, we have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. See, Thomas, who would later become known as, we've all heard it, Doubting Thomas, exemplifies how our experiences can shape our belief systems. The moment he demands to see evidence highlights something significant about human nature. We often want to see things for ourselves before accepting them as truth. It reflects our inherent skepticism, especially concerning things like faith. So we see the result, persistent doubts for 8 days. Thomas's critical confrontation and confession in verse 26. And it says, and after 8 days, again his disciples were within, and Thomas was with them. Then came Jesus, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst and said, peace be unto you. Here we see Jesus returning to his disciples after his resurrection. This is 1 week after he first appeared to them. The words of Jesus saying, peace be with you, signifies his desire to offer comfort and reassurance. The disciples, who had been fearful and anxious, needed this message of peace. They needed this to calm them down. Jesus made it clear that despite their fears, he was there to offer solace and affirmation of their continuing mission. This also emphasizes the importance of community and support in times of difficulty. Even as they faced doubt and distress, Jesus sought them out, showing his love and commitment to them. So we see the confrontation in verse 27. It says, "Then said he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it into my side, and be not faithless, but believing." The meaning of this passage is rich and multifaceted. It highlights the gentleness of Jesus in meeting individuals where they are, even when they're struggling with belief. Thomas, often labeled as Doubting Thomas, exemplifies human skepticism, which can arise when faced with extraordinary claims, in a way we see ourselves reflected in Thomas, as we often seek reassurance in our own faith journey. Jesus' invitation to Thomas serves as a reminder that doubt is not the opposite of faith, but rather a part of it. In our struggles, Jesus provides an open invitation to reach out, explore, and ultimately believe. So we see from doubt to declaration. The strong confession in verse 28, he says, "And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord and my God." In this powerful verse, we witness Thomas's declaration of faith after personally encountering the risen Jesus. The phrase, "My Lord and my God," reflects an intimate, personal relationship with Jesus. Thomas, who was initially doubtful about Jesus' resurrection, came to a profound realization of Jesus' divine nature. This moment signifies a pivotal confession, acknowledging Jesus as both Lord and God. So encapsulating the core of Christian belief, that's what we all believe as Christians, that Jesus is not merely a prophet or teacher, but the Son of God, who has triumphed over death. So we see Thomas's great lesson for all of us. The person who believes without sin will be far more behind than those who demand proof. Look at verse 29. "And Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed." This statement now highlights the difference between the disciples who have had firsthand experience of Jesus after his resurrection and the future believers who would put their faith in him based solely on the testimony of others. It emphasizes that faith can exist even in the absence of tangible proof. Jesus acknowledges that seeing him in the flesh was enough for Thomas, but those who believe based on faith alone are truly blessed. This resonates with us as it calls us to trust in God's word and his promises without needing physical proof. So we see Jesus appeared again in chapter 21, 1 through 2. He appeared after the proofs of the resurrection in verse 1. He says, "After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and on this wise showed he himself." In understanding this verse, we recognize a moment of revelation. After the events of the resurrection, Jesus appears again to the disciples, further affirming his identity. The mention of the Sea of Tiberias, also known as the Sea of Galilee, is significant. This location was central to Jesus' ministry, and it serves as a reminder of his earlier miracles and teachings. We can view this moment as a comforting reassurance to the disciples who may have been feeling lost or uncertain that after the crucifixion and their subsequent experiences, seeing Jesus, seeing him again, is an affirmation of his power over death and a testimony and a testament to his loving nature. He appeared to 7 disciples who were together, hidden for fear of the authorities. Look at verse 2. There were together Simon Peter and Thomas called Didymus, and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other of his disciples. What's remarkable about this group is that each disciple represents different backgrounds and personalities, same as all of you today. For example, Peter's impetuous, often quick to act, while Thomas is known for his skepticism until he sees proof. Now, this diversity among the disciples reveals how God brings together different individuals to accomplish his task. Each person has a unique role, and when united, they can achieve great things. It mirrors our own lives, encouraging us to come together despite our differences, contributing to a sense of belonging within our faith. We're all different, but we all together. We all come together to Jesus by faith. So it says this verse offers us a glimpse into a moment of unity among the disciples as they navigate a time of uncertainty. Their gathering is an inspiring reminder of the importance of community in our lives, showcasing strength in diversity and shared experiences. This principle says, as we journey together in our faith, let us remember to seek solace in one another, offer encouragement, and keep in mind the value of our unique perspectives. We are different, but we're the same. We're children of God. I want to thank you for being here. See you again next time.